Hello, it's Sotiria, and today we're going to talk about brain structures and their functions. Now, brain is the most complex organ on our body and possibly the most valuable one. Brain and the spinal cord constitute the central nervous system, whereas the nerves that move along our body constitute the peripheral nervous system. Now, these two nervous systems, with our brain, can control our everyday activities and allow us to perform everyday functions from breathing to thinking, memorizing, hearing, and sensing things. The brain can be divided in many ways. One of the ways suggested is forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Another way to divide the brain is to its main parts, like its surface, the surface covering the brain, which is called cortex or cerebrum, the subcortical areas that are inside the brain, the cerebellum, which is right there, and the brainstem, which runs along your neck. Lastly, one way to divide the brain is to left hemisphere and right hemisphere. Now, let's say some things about these divisions. The surface of the brain, which is called cortex, is a really wrinkled surface. This thing allows the brain to enclose a large number of cells into our small heads. The brain, the whole brain, is the size of a mango, approximately. The cortex can support many functions, like perceiving the sensory inputs and taking decisions about the sensory outputs. This means that the cortex allows us to perceive a voice, process it, and respond appropriately to our partner. Now, the cortex of the brain can be further divided into four different lobes, four different areas that support different functions and interact with each other. The frontal lobes, the parietal lobes, the temporal lobes, and the occipital lobes. The last ones were the occipital lobes. Frontal lobes are mainly responsible for reasoning, decision-making, and taking under consideration the appropriate steps that a person has to make in order to solve a problem or make a decision in his everyday life. Now, the parietal lobes are responsible for movement, motor perception, orientation, and perception of other stimuli. Temporal lobes are associated with memory functions and perception of auditory input or speech function. Lastly, occipital lobes are mainly associated with the perception of visual stimuli and processing it. The cortex of the brain is highly wrinkled. This way, the brain is made more efficient because the surface increases and the amount of neurons in it supporting many different functions increases too. Now, let's say some things about the cerebellum. Cerebellum, as we stated before, is situated right here. So take good care of that part of your brain, don't ever hit it. Cerebellum is mainly responsible about simple acts like movements, posture, balance of the body. Then we have the brainstem. The brainstem is situated right here at the back of your neck. Brainstem is the simpler part of the brain, but the most valuable one, because it allows you to breathe. It controls your sleep function, your eye movement. It basically keeps you alive. Now, let's say some things about left hemisphere and right hemisphere division. Left hemisphere and right hemisphere are two distinct entities that interact with each other all the time. They interact via the corpus callosum. It is like a bridge here which unites the two hemispheres. The two hemispheres interact highly with each other, and the one is highly involved into the other's functions. But researchers suggest that they have some differences. For example, many say that this right hemisphere is the creative one, and left hemisphere is the logic one. Now, usually the functions of the brain go crosswise. For example, the left hemisphere controls the right part of the body. This crosswise function allows you to understand if a person has a dominant left or right hemisphere. Usually, people who are right-handed have a dominant left hemisphere. However, this rule does not apply every time when we talk about people who use the left hand or who use equally their hands. So, a question for you. What are you? Are you right-handed, left-handed, or do you use equally both of your hands?